All right. Welcome back to the channel. We're going to talk about Dillian Whyte being dropped in the ratings of the WBO in exchange for #1 ranked Alexander Usyk and #2 ranked Tyson Fury. I wonder how that could have happened. Dillian Whyte crying about it. That's what we'll talk about in this video. All right, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and when you hit the bell icon, and even if you're already subscribed, check your notification bell and make sure that you hit get all notifications, because you have to actually double click it and select this particular one. I looked at my algorithm, I looked at my analytics, and there's about 10% of you guys that have the subscription button pressed, but don't have the get all notification pressed, and that might be why you're not getting your notifications. Now, also check out the Patreon, check out the live streams we do Monday through Friday, and much love and support. Thank you for all the love and support for the channel. Now let's get into this. Dillian Whyte, man, the world just ain't treating Dillian Whyte right. According to Dillian Whyte, who's busy crying and complaining about how he's not made the mandatory of the by the WBC for Deontay Wilder, and mad at the WBC for not just stopping Deontay Wilder in his tracks and making him fight his second mandatory, back-to-back mandatory, because he's Dillian Whyte and he deserves it. He works for Eddie Hearn and he deserves it. Microphone dropped. You guys have to put up with that. Microphone that, you know, he's with Eddie Hearn, so he deserves it, right? Complaining now about something honestly he's got a point about, but then again he doesn't have a point about. The WBO rankings have him down at #3 without him having lost a fight, without Alexander Usyk having ever fought a heavyweight fight, and Tyson Fury coming off of a draw in a fight against a tomato can. Now, although I am not typically the biggest supporter of Dillian Whyte because he bumps his lip too much for my liking, I gotta say that his last couple fights, his are better than Alexander Usyk's fights at heavyweight, because Alexander Usyk ain't never fought anybody at heavyweight. So how could you rank him ahead of somebody in your rankings? I could understand why you might give him, because of the rules, their rules, which is, you know, their logic, that you could give him a championship shot because he was a champion at a lower weight class. But do you make the guy moving up from a lower weight class the #1 contender in every circumstance? I think that's a little funny. But then again, I have to look to see whether or not Dillian Whyte actually refused to fight a fight that was ordered by the WBC. I don't know if that fight with the situation with Pulev was for the WBO or the IBF. Regardless, Alexander Usyk, he should be ranked ahead of Alexander Usyk. Tyson Fury, he should definitely be ranked ahead. I would definitely, in the WBO rankings, I would definitely put him ahead of Tyson Fury as well, because Tyson Fury hasn't beaten a ranked opponent in the last 4 years. And then he beat Tom Spatz. So, you know, it is what it is, man. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. However, Dillian Whyte is not, how should we say, exactly innocent here, or he's maybe being a little bit of a hypocrite here when he's talking about this issue, because that also happened with him over in the WBC back in November of 2017, when he became the #1 challenge, when he became the #1 ranked contender by the WBC, when they moved him over Dominic Brazil for no good reason. He was coming off of a fight against Malcolm Tan and Robert Helenius. That's how Dillian Whyte became the #1 ranked guy by the WBC. Dominic Breazeale didn't lose. Did he? No. Dominic Breazeale didn't lose until he fought Deontay Wilder, who he was mandated to fight by the WBC. Deontay Wilder's #1 mandatory was Dominic Breazeale, and Dillian Whyte bumped him into the #1 position. So Dillian Whyte, you know, I'm crying crocodile tears for Dillian Whyte in this regard. The fact is that most of these sanctioned bodies, or all of them, maybe not the IBF. From what I've seen, the IBF is pretty good. IBF is actually pretty good with their rankings, with trying to force people to defend their mandatories. They actually had the intestinal fortitude to strip Gennady Golovkin when Gennady Golovkin said he would fight Sergey Deverenchenko, but then said he would fight Sergey Deverenchenko after he fought. I think it was Selecki. He might have not. If it wasn't not Selecki, gosh, man, I can't remember his name, man. It was the guy from Armenia that had fought Jermel Charlo for a belt, and Demetrius Andrade for a belt. Vanis Martirosyan, right? After he fought Vanis Martirosyan in a fight that should have never been, Vanis Martirosyan didn't deserve at all. But the IBF let Gennady Golovkin fight him on a promise that Gennady Golovkin would fight his mandatory next. And when Gennady Golovkin refused to fight his mandatory, they stripped him. Similar to the way that the WBC, or better than the way that the WBC just stripped Canelo Alvarez for not defending his mandatory by giving him some, you know, made up designation, a franchise champion, which functionally means the future emeritus champion. But regardless, man, we all know about these sanctioning organizations and how they, how they make very, very funny, or I guess it's just not, their decisions don't make sense from the outside looking in. I have to believe, though, that there are, in many cases, some real pressures on the WBC and some leverage that they just don't have in certain circumstances. They have to keep the bills on. They have to pay their bills. And when you have like somebody like Canelo, who is a big money fighter, then, you know, the decision might go the way of, they might bend over backwards to try to do something to make that promoter happy, or just to keep the promoter of that fighter, or that fighter, just make sure that they're not pissed off and they don't throw the belt in the garbage. Same thing's going on over here in the WBO for sure. Tyson Fury Tyson Fury being over the top of Dillian Whyte in the WBO, Bob Arum. That's the whatever Bob orders organization. As far as Alexander Usyk being there, I think that might be necessitated by their rules. When a guy moves up, he can become mandatory if he asks for it. But either way, man, it's garbage, and I just don't appreciate it. We need blood boxing talks about it all the time, man. We really do need, but we'll never get, more than likely. Definitely, I don't believe in my lifetime will we get one organization, one sanctioning body with common rules, or if you don't have one sanctioning body, at least have some common rules, some standard protocols or rules between the organizations, so that you don't wind up having, just what seems like 4 entirely different rules of boxing. 4 different organizations means 4 different set of rules, 4 different sets of governance for the sport of boxing, how fighters are made, how fighters designated a champion, how fighters are ranked, how fighters are drug tested. All of those things vary from organization to organization to organization. And then the way that boxing works is Next week, you might have another one. I'm really happy that when Anthony Joshua lost, that the conversations about the IBO went away. But Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua and Matchroom's team was really pushing. The IBO was a major championship belt, which it had never been before, but there started to be a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of media repeating it, which was just, I don't think it was good for boxing. But anyway, it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comment section about Dillian Whyte. Do you think Dillian Whyte deserves to be the #1 contender in the WBO? Or did he get the screw job put to him by Uncle Bob and Eddie Fast Man Hearns, with double S's at the end of his name, because I think the dude's a snake. Anyway, it is what it is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.